windows. The world is a safe place, I learned in the 3rd grade. The world is not a safe place, I learned in an inner city high school in Chicago, where Miss Carr, my indomitable teacher, told me that I was not mousy or poor. Because she had grown up poorer than I, and with more brothers and sisters. She said, "You are as strong as I am." And I believed her. While we read Julius Caesar with an African-American accent. The world is an accordion full of endless adventures, Mr. Sullivan said, as he came over to our dilapidated migrant camp to fill out FAFSA paperwork with my mom, who fed him everything she knew how to make unforgettable. While he, blushing and flustered with the chile colorado, drank milk. Full of adventure, he said, and I believed. They were my windows, never broken, never concealed, camouflaged or muffled. Windows speak with one gaze, like teachers. For immigrant and migrant students and children, teachers are the windows to opportunity, knowledge, the middle class, the beauty of the America we all desire. Sometimes you are the only window to the outside world of their culture, home, family, social class. This is why I became a teacher and taught junior high school and high school, receiving my bilingual clear credential K-12 from UCSC in the 90s. I wanted to become a window for my students. While I was a teacher in California, I heard many conversations about migrant children. I also heard a well-meaning master teacher advising my sister, a bilingual primary teacher, "Don't spend so much time with these migrant children. They will not amount to anything, no matter what I do." Well, we all know that it's not so. But we must water what we plant continuously. And we must shut down those narratives. Because migrant and immigrant parents want everything you want for your children. Safety, success, knowledge, and peace. How we interpret the world we live in and support our children and parents coming from migrant, immigrant communities sets up the yellow brick roadmap for our students to succeed and soar. I was a migrant, immigrant child, and although born in the United States, given that my older sister's experience in kinder was so traumatic, my mother removed both of us from the American school system for years. That experience still marks my adult sister, bilingual teacher in California. My parents went to work at 5 a.m. in the morning, leaving my sister with a neighbor who walked her to school and took care of her children and I. My mother started noticing that my sister's mood was significantly changing during the first weeks of school. She was becoming introverted, introspective, sad, not normal for a 6-year-old, and found out that the marks on my sister's back and arms were proof of my sister's mistreatment at school. She approached the school, found out that the person torturing my sister into silence every day was the only other little girl who spoke Spanish, who felt outed as a Spanish speaker by my sister because she was made to translate for her. This is California in the late 60s, early 70s, before there were any type of bilingual programs, and the assimilation model was the only way to survive. The school and the teacher did little for my sister. Things did not change. So the next week, my mother took my sister and I and left her husband and brothers to fend for themselves. She borrowed the $32 she needed to go to her mother's home in Durango to raise us with pride in who we were, while she sewed and cooked, made tamales and tacos to support us because she, with a second-grade rural Mexican education, understood that she must take care of our spirits above all. She took us to Mexico, where we lived in dire poverty, but where we could have role models and were not to be, as she said, embarrassed about who we were and where we came from, and specifically what language we spoke. So I was able to secure teaching credential, a master's and a PhD from Stanford, because Mrs. Wilcox, Elsie Wilcox, my third-grade teacher, a first-generation person herself, daughter of German immigrants, understood the importance of inclusivity. She stayed with me for several months after school and made me join the morning and afternoon reading groups so I would catch up to the rest. Because this one person believed in me, I stayed in school and learned English quickly, allowing me to fit in academically in record time. In high school, another educator, my high school counselor, Mr. Michael Sullivan, dedicated his life to sending the children of immigrant and migrant farm workers to Ivy Leagues. He was the one person that impacted my life the most, in a most favorable manner. I got to go to a private school for undergraduate school, and as a result to become part of the middle class, much faster than I would have in any other circumstance for a person coming from the working class and extreme poverty. And I love the middle class. I do anything to stay there. You are the teachers and educators of today that are making the lives of many children and young adults successful faster. Thank you. Welcome to all the teachers, to the community members who join us today, because immigration is important to you. You joined a profession that changes lives. 56.6 million, the Latino population of the United States as of July 1st, 2015. I'm sure it's a lot higher now. People say we need tolerance to survive what is occurring, our recent presidential transition, but really, that really began long ago. I say what we most need is respect. No one will ever complain because you respected them too much. I'm a first-generation daughter of Mexican migrant, immigrant farm workers. We, not foreign, because our people are mestizos and at least part native. We must underline the importance of narrative, allowing the mainstream voices to state that Mexicans and other U.S. Latinos and Latin Americans are foreign is in error. No, we are native to the Americas. However, we are fearful during these times because our people were repatriated by the government in the 1930s. I'm sure Dr. Gamboa will speak about all that. In this their country, where they owned most of the city of Los Angeles in the 1950s. I'm a daughter of poverty immigration who has, along with her people, endured much disdain in her lifetime, is here to thank you for your presence, care, and commitment to improving the lives of immigrants. I so love teachers that I married one. He's right there. Eric Muhs teaches physics. I'm going to read just a couple of excerpts and then introduce Dr. Gamboa. We are here, we have survived and thrived in our mythic homeland, Aztlán. This is an excerpt of one of my poems. Aztlán is a mythic homeland created by the Chicano Civil Rights Movement in the 1960s, and Mexican-American intellectuals and poets use this term. We were not made to be foreign, you say with your eyes, to all the homeless nights and wandering butterflies. Will a pint of blood make you Mexican? We were not made to have our bodies tabulated by numbers in a Hitlerian manner, questioned by designated orders, prejudged in a state with arms that distrust, measured by liminal hearts. We were not made to hate or be hated. And I'll just read you a piece of Tesoros. I wrote Tesoros because one of my sons was asking me what the men at the strip malls were doing. And I said to him, you know, they're treasures to their moms. Tesoros. They were born to be treasures, raised to shine, Ponce de Leon's gold. Their mothers built tesoros to give of themselves. Wherever they went, to be useful was their first prayer. They traversed the interstices of the mind, leaving their loved ones with stored hugs and kisses forever, knowing the power of beauty is less than the power of love. They left to come sell themselves for $50 a day. What does it mean to be a stranger when we were raised to be a treasure? To sing when you work, to cry for friends when you leave, and to allow others to cry for you, to feel that you are a treasure of life anywhere you go. What does it mean to turn from being a guest and becoming a ghost, an alien by well-meaning mission volunteers who feed you? When you were born to plant your feet on the ground of all those who need you, you were sentenced by your culture to package hospitality in your arms and teeth. Instead, you have gone a presence in the dark. These are hard times, but this is not the first time that Mexicans' unique and enlightening hard work that has shifted the energies of our country, whether in the army or the community, as well as our major contributions to the U.S. economy. Tolerance, respectful culture, and willingness to work and adapt go unacknowledged. Justice is not simply a word, but an unpacking of actions. I would especially like to thank Dr. Emily Lieb for organizing, promoting tirelessly this event and making everything perfect as she does. She is a hard-working visionary and one of my colleagues at Seattle University's Mateo Ricci College. I also want to thank our dean from Mateo Ricci, Paulette Kidder, who's also here. This is the people I work with. We are so very grateful to have her, Emily Lee, educating and guiding our students who are to become teachers. It is my honor to introduce a man who is respected and famous in our communities, in our Chicano communities, everywhere, not only in the Northwest. Dr. Erasmo Gamboa. A child of Mexican immigrant parents, Erasmo Gamboa was born in Texas and spent his youth in the Yakima Valley of eastern Washington. After attending Yakima Valley Community College, he enrolled at the University of Washington in 1968, where he quickly became a leading student activist. Gamboa helped found the University of Washington chapter of MECHA and was chairman of the University Boycott Committee supporting the United Farm Workers boycott of non-union grapes. Gamboa was also instrumental in the establishment of the University of Washington's Chicano Studies program. He earned an MA in history from the University of Washington in 1973 and his PhD in 1984. He is currently Associate Professor of Chicano Studies and Adjunct Associate Professor of History and Latin American Studies at the University of Washington. Professor Gamboa is the author of numerous articles and books on the history of Latinos in the Pacific Northwest, including Mexican labor in World War II, Braceros in the Pacific Northwest, 1942 to 1947, and Nosotros, the Hispanic People of Oregon, Essays and Reflections, which won the Helen and Martin Shorts Prize from the National Federation of State Humanities Councils. His most recent book, Bracero Railroaders, The Forgotten World War II of Mexican Workers in the U.S. West, was published last fall by the University of Washington Press. Dr. Gamboa is a role model for all of us Chicano professors, scholars, researchers. I would not be here had he not documented the important contributions of Chicanos in the Pacific Northwest. His work has allowed me to exist in academia and be hired in a university in the Northwest. I never forget that it has been Chicano trailblazers, groundbreakers like Dr. Gamboa that are in great part responsible for us being able to have a conference like this today. Thank you very much.